All right, I'm going to turn off the music here. Still trying to get set up. I'm going to make you the co-host, or one of the co-hosts. Invite to co-host. Here we go. There we go. I'm doing this from my phone this time, actually, because I think that might be what screwed up the recording last time, is that I created the space on my phone, but then started it on desktop. So I'm wondering if that's the difference there.
Yeah, that could be it.
So we'll wait it out and a little more until everyone else is in here. Are you at 1,000 followers yet, dude?
No, almost. I'm at 938, I think.
Nice. I'm jealous.
No, I'm not. I still don't have enough to get monetized.
Yeah, it actually turns out to be, I think, like 500 verified followers. So even if you have 1,000, you're still not monetized.
Yeah.
Lawless said he'll be in here shortly. While we're at it, let me test this wall thing. Let's see if I can manage to do that. So let me paste that there. And let's see if that comes up. All right, who else we got? Mike. I'll add Mike as a speaker. I'll add both you guys as speakers. We're just trying out a few things here, making sure that this works this time, because we had a goated fucking conversation last time and it didn't record, and I was so mad. It's probably we all probably had FBI handlers listening to it, and they were like, "All right, slow down. You guys are getting a little too comfortable with this." So that's probably what they did.
Yeah, probably 100%.
Like, I don't, it's almost not even a joke anymore to say, yeah, I have an FBI handler.
Yeah, the problem is we don't know though. If we knew, it'd
Yeah.
be different.
Yeah, I guess you'll never know. But, when things magically disappear and I know where I placed them, 100%. Like, FBI nanobots picked it up and put it somewhere else.
Yeah, did you hear about the 5G from the COVID thing? We make our own 5G now.
Yeah, COVID was such a meme with that, with all the conspiracy theories. I mean, I'm definitely like friendly to conspiracy theories. I think we all are here. We have to be if we've all talked about the you know who's. But some of them just like, can you at least have some sort of plausibility to them? Can they at least like make sense?
Yeah, it's true.
All right, Lawless said he's going to be in here shortly. Eggnog and Mike, I added you as speakers since, we're probably never going to have enough people in here that's going to be a problem. Let me just go. So, the first part of my title here, the return with the V, trademarked to skinny girls, right? So, earlier this week, we all saw that guy, Billy, posted that criticism of that girl, and it like totally split Twitter in half. And people argued all sorts of things. They argued, well, what's the big deal with, I mean, women, of course, were like, well, what the freak is wrong with having a freaking tight dress on? She can wear whatever the freak she wants. And other people were pooping their pants about arguing over like who's attractive versus who's not. So I don't want to go too really into whether or not this person's attractive or anything. Firstly, because it's inappropriate for me because I'm married. But if I were to say what side I stand on that, that is that I think I'm actually pretty against the right wing sentiment on this here, and I'll explain why shortly. But and we're all like bros here. We're all alt right or alt right adjacent in some ways. So, we could disagree in here, but if I'm saying something like XYZ opinion is gay and retarded, and you have that opinion, know that when you have that opinion, it's based in Epic and Cool and Chat and Alpha. I'm really more so talking about the subset of people that have whatever opinion that are like gay and retarded. And that goes for any opinion, right? Any opinion or thought or something is going to have, retards who really just hold that opinion for a retarded reason. So let me add, let's do Lawless as my co host here. I'll do Lawless, invite to co host, and I'm like Zoomer ADHD right now because I'm holding up my desktop to see what I'm looking at, but I'm holding my phone because I have to start it on the phone, I think, for the recording to go correctly. Alrighty. So you guys might have seen my tweet on this. So this is, for those of you guys just tuning in, this is the girl that was posted earlier this week that half the internet was saying she was like fat and gross, and the other half of the internet was saying she is hot or whatever. I'm not going to say she's hot. I'm married. It's inappropriate for me to say things like that. So, but I do want to get into, why exactly does this type of thing destroy people? Like, why does this get people so heated and so back and forth? So, the first one I wanted to make that I think that we all can agree on, and that is that I'll add you as a speaker here. Anybody who joins like that. Okay. So, the first part that I think we'll all agree on is that this is it rightfully men get mad at this insofar as there's the past 20 to 40 years women have been abusing this idea of body shame and anti-shame to excuse indolence. There's no other way to put that, and women get particularly fed up with it because on the forefront of their consciousness they think they're being altruistic, and they think that it's about not being too mean to anybody, right? Because that's girl ethics. Don't be mean. And it falsely presupposes that these are things that you can't change. Like if you have fat, like that, there's no way to say you can't change that. And so, but of course, they think you can't change that because they think their minds don't enter the realm. Their neurons do not create a synapse that prompts the thought of being able to change that, because being able to change that would imply you don't get to be indolent anymore. You don't get to be lazy anymore. You have to work out. You have to forego pleasantries. You have to forego indulgence. And so when men are like, yeah, no, that's still gross, that's still unattractive, and I don't like that, and are rightfully critical of it, women get absolutely lose their fucking minds because they've so carefully constructed this worldview that's such a careful, deeply rooted cope and seethe that as soon as you poke the slightest hole in it, it devolves into hysteria. And it devolves that quickly and easily because it's not reasonable. It's not grounded in anything other than I want to be able to feelsy goodsy whenever I want, wherever I want, without facing any consequences to it. So I'll make that first point there. If anyone had some thoughts on that subset of this topic.
Honestly, it is all cope because the biggest problem that people have is the fear of failure. They don't want to start because they're afraid to fail. So it's easier for them to say, "Oh, I can't change this," because if they do fail, then their ego goes kaput and they can't recover from that.
Right. Yeah, there's a fear in the idea that, well, if I work out or whatever and am still fat, then that's like really suggests that there's something like wrong with them in some way. I think that's probably what they're scared of.
I can double down on that. I'll keep this rant quick, but like how many of you guys, and thank you so much for letting me in. How many of you
Yeah,
guys have ever heard a female talk about being bloated?
yeah,
Versus, we'll just keep it simple. Like a man, I've never heard a man use that term. And if I did, he would be
I get
describing like,
bloated, dude.
I mean,
Sometimes.
I believe you, bro. But like, it's usually we talk about cadavers being bloated. It's or like a medical condition, right? And women are
yeah.
like, I drank a lot of water, I'm bloated. And it's like, no, bitch, you need to go pee. It'll happen in 15 minutes. Like, chill out. And so they really do foster kind of this, even really, really nice. I've never heard a girl not say that. Even the nicest ones, right? They're so down on themselves, and it's almost as if, I don't know. And I've gotten into it with girls before and just asked, what is that? What is that you guys do? This bloated thing. It's like this fear of having a tummy. Where does that come from?
Right.
And there's really, it's just kind of this fake medical thing. So it's like, you're 100% right.
Yeah, there's bloat, there's oh well, I'm on my period, that one, right? And the excuse of like hormones, it's like, okay, hormones, they play a role, but it's like your hormones are really fucked up for you to like your body weight to be that sensitive, and even then that means that you whatever holds like the slightest bit extra water. That doesn't mean you have like a fucking gut.
I think pretty much all of the body shaming thing can be blamed on, what would it be, fourth wave feminism? Like,
Oh,
the problem is women aren't accountable for anything these
right.
days. And so publicly you're not allowed to criticize in any way. And you see that amplified on social media, to address what you initially started talking about.
Right.
So that's it. Is women? You're not allowed to hold women accountable for anything. Period.
Right.
I think
And
that's the root of it.
yeah, absolutely. And accountability is another version of that little baby lizard brain compulsion for dodging feelings of discomfort. Every form of every discomfort, it's the lowest level layer is physical discomforts, working out or whatever, or taking an extra step or some sort of physical exertion. And then the secondary layer is like this social discomfort or even like super ego induced discomfort. So like that accountability, you're exactly right in that they lose their minds at it, and you're not allowed, like, there's the collective unconscious sentiment is to not have accountability because everyone can get on board with that, because that implies that for them as an individual they don't have to suffer that discomfort, so they're good with it, so everyone kind of like in this psychical space votes
Yeah.
for no accountability. And that's where they get the confidence in that. That's how they get so confident in being able to be
I
aggressive
don't
at you for it.
I don't think it's confidence. I think it's like an inflated ego. I think women maybe subconsciously want to be held accountable for their shitty behavior. Um, and a lot of men won't these days, and that's where the whole like simp thing stems from.
Right.
And it's kind of where the rot is coming from. Is they know that they're having bad behavior,
Right.
whatever it is. They're fat. They're eating a guy's ass out in an elevator. Uh,
Yeah, yeah.
uh, they know that they're acting shitty, and no one the society tells them like, oh no, whatever you decide to do, you're perfect.
Right.
Whether it's eating ass on camera, that's gonna be like in that chick's history forever. Like, I hope her grandchildren see that.
Yeah.
Uh,
Well, honestly, that once you said that, I thought about something. Like in the brotherhood, we always make fun of each other. We always uh cut like you know what I mean? Like we always
Bust
make fun of each
chops.
other. Yeah, we bust our own
yeah,
chops.
yeah.
And the sisterhood, they don't do that. They just like raise each other up. They don't have the same thing that we do. They
Well,
just
it's toxic positivity, because what they're actually doing is, oh, girlfriend, you're fat and ugly, stay that way, don't improve, because it actually reduces competition for the women that are technically more attractive.
Yeah, that's a really good point to bring up. I don't know where I read this, but women like invent somewhere along the lines of reading, women slut shame each other like almost as much as men, and women's slut shaming strategy is it's a sexual competition because they have this deep idea where they know that they're like the hot girl who sticks her tits out is going to get the guy. Like they know, they almost have this and not that they actually do this, but on some level there's a degree of they are like the zookeepers of that. And like men do kind of have this thing where it's like they see it, they're like a dog, you see a squirrel, you can't help it, like you're just eyes on, locked in on it. So similarly, men are like that, and they almost have this collective agreement on like how to manage the dogs, how to manage their behavior.
Yeah.
And so when one woman solicits their attention, especially if it's a hot girl, they all have to slut shame her and they all have to ostracize her from the other females because now the threat is, they've essentially threatened her standing in the social hierarchy, which threatens survival, and survival has to come before uh,
Right.
mate attraction. So that's their little game with that.
Yeah, women are hyper competitive. It's just different than how men are.
Exactly. Yeah. Lawless, you have your hand up.
Yo, hey everybody. Is this working? Uh,
Yeah.
Yep.
Yes, sir.
Yeah.
I was just gonna add, like, I don't know why, but it just came to mind the idea of, Sodom and Gomorrah. This a land where there's all this immorality, there's no responsibility, everybody's seeking pleasure, hedonism, and
Yeah.
it's like this. You kind of see it these days, like people not taking responsibility for, their bodies, their actions, and it's like if the world didn't take like if people like us didn't attack these ideas, there'd be no, it's like that again what Wharton said with the brotherhood dynamic, social dynamic. We didn't put people down and knock their egos down, we'd be headed straight towards that, in my opinion. And it's like this is an example. The hysteria comes out and in responses to like posts like these, because it's like people can't handle that. Deep down, they know this type of behavior needs to be corrected. But yeah, that's kind of something that came to my mind. If anyone wanted
Lawless,
to
I think you're
talk on
right.
that.
Have you noticed this? And this is just to kind of ground what you're saying. Have you guys noticed this kind of, and this is mostly with secular women, but this pseudo lesbianism that goes around where, and I say it a lot jokingly, but how can I oppress you further when you're already oppressing yourself fully? Because what happens,
Yeah.
like, there's no room for me to try to. It's like I would, but I can't, sweetie. But what happens is, we're in a culture. We I don't know. We can talk about why, but we're in a culture where the game is self validation. And how is it so? How does this paradox exist where society allows women to self validate? All the yes queening. Oh, you're so hot. Oh, you're like my sister and my lesbian lover. And how is it that in this realm where they self validate, that's not enough?
Yeah, well, there's a secondary layer to the hedonism that Lawless mentioned, in that there's also avoiding like the internal accountability. So, and this is where they get like schizoid. The truth and its consequences exist irrespective of whether or not you acknowledge them. And so
Right.
they get like really worked up about how, like, for example, like the fat girl thing, like the totally obese girls that are like, yeah, I'm a 10, like and we all do this as men. We're all like, yo, did you hit though? Like that's kind of like the meme, like, okay, if you didn't hit, then like shut the fuck up, on some. And I don't always agree with that, but on some level there's this layer to that. We understand that the results speak for themselves, and but they don't do that. They like devolve into hysteria because the results hold that accountability. And there's still even further results in that even if they're not ostracized or not shamed from one another, they're still miserable. It's still very internal, but it go that instinct to avoid the discomfort of that internal accountability from the superego, the guilt of not behaving well, of not behaving aligned with your values, the guilt of mistreating yourself, the guilt of perpetually living in these pathological cycles of, dating people that, and we could get into why this is, but in short, dating people that, like, quote unquote, aren't good for you, but you can't, you feel safe in doing those cycles because that's how you understand how to relate to the opposite sex. So all that's to say, on like an interpersonal level, there's this, there's the perpetual, like, sheep mindset that they all and when I say confidence, I don't mean they're actually confident, but they're confident in the sentiment of all of this stuff because it's validated by everyone else thinking and feeling the same way.
It's like what we talked about last time. Remember the boosting of the ego, but they don't actually grow. There's no actualization. So when the cope breaks down, when the truth is like revealed, like, oh, you're actually not skinny, you're fat. Their house of cards falls, and
Yeah.
their whole personality breaks down.
Yeah. And that's even scarier because then they're forced to sort of think twice about who they are and what they think and feel. And a lot of these people have been repressing that for like their whole life. A lot of people go their whole lives like that.
Yeah, um, I fully agree with that idea. Like a lot of people these days, they're so swamped in the idea. I mean, sorry, in the kind of content they see. Whether it's TikTok, Instagram, whatever, Reels, constantly showing them this like false reality, and it goes again with the whole ideology thing being
Mm,
pushed through social media, and they never take a moment to self-reflect or like have a look at themselves, and you go through your whole life, and then that's where you get those like identity crises, that
yeah.
just come out, and it's because there's all this um, unaccounted for like damage, that they've just never had the chance to even look at.
They're miserable and they don't know why. And society tells them to blame it on external sources like men or, the patriarchy,
I was
whatever,
just gonna say,
fabricated.
yeah, the
Yeah.
patriarchy.
Yeah.
And so the problem is they're miserable and they don't self reflect and learn from their mistakes. They're miserable and they just blame it on whatever the establishment wants them to dislike at that
I,
particular time.
You
So,
I
know,
think I
I'm glad you
do.
guys brought this up. I'm glad you guys brought this up about the ideologies. Like how we're always fighting against communism and stuff, like from people that are long dead. It's like our ideas, they continue, like our what do you call it? Our customs, they continue,
Mm,
and our
our
ideas too.
traditions.
Yeah, our traditions. So we can't really kill those things because people, they flock to the thing that helps them cope. So let's say we're never going to get rid of communism if people have that need for free things or uh, doing whatever they want without consequences.
yeah, absolutely. Ghost to Gibson, you go ahead. I think I saw you about to chime in a few times.
Yeah, thanks. So I think too, in the name of accountability, also in the name of compassion, let's take a look at a timeline here, because the way women formulate these core memories, and these traumatic experiences, we're not innocent at all.
Mm,
And I have been trying to do my best, it religiously so, to take accountability to God for the man I was when I was younger,
right.
because even the women I dated, I was not a good person. I'm 40 now. I'm still a piece of
Hmm.
shit. I stopped dating because I'm just focused on being a dad. Um,
Hmm.
but the things that I have done to women are inexcusable. And until we stop fucking them up, eh, like this trauma didn't come out of nowhere. And so if their
Yeah.
core memories are relating back when they were with Mel for however long, and he did that thing, and even though he was the boyfriend or whatever, they loved him, that's really the core memory. So we're not innocent of that.
Absolutely.
And I certainly
No, absolutely
appreciate
not.
this movement, this anti-Coomer, withhold the semen, don't have sex with secular women, reserve your energy for God. Kind of,
Yeah.
that movement is amazing. And I certainly wish that I had been repentant as a younger man and thought about that sooner, because I've really messed up a lot of women in my life.
I'll relate a similar experience real quick. When I like so, and I think we all understand this. All our lives growing up, and this is why I speak up against like a lot of the red pill PUA shit, is from like 12 to 13 years on, we're all sort of convinced that if you like do not fuck a girl instantaneously upon walking into the same room as her, you're a fucking beta cock fucking pussy. And
Yeah.
if growing up you didn't really have like a frame of mind to compare that to, you will get like seriously fucked up at every juncture of the slightest bit of rejection or the slightest moment where you felt vulnerable or anything, because you're going to feel like everyone sees like your deepest darkest vulnerabilities, and you're going to feel like you're the biggest pussy in the room. And ironically, that's how I like felt all throughout my adolescence. And I perpetually tried to like get pussy. And in college, it's like if I didn't walk into a bar and fuck a girl that night, I was like, how am I such a pussy that I can't pull a girl in college, right? And ironically, so firstly, once I finally started to resolve that, a realization a lot of these guys don't have is that they'll tell you, well, if you're not getting results, it's because you're a pussy or whatever. So what I did, and you can see in my picture here, right? I have this gym bro look. So what I did was alpha eyes everything. Every interaction with every girl was like, yeah, yeah, fucking, huh. I would always pull the stupid lines like, yeah, I would be with a girl right now, but they all just keep using me for sex, haha. And it always came off too player-esque to them. And I actually, as soon as I started toning that down, was when I got a lot more success with women. But then to wrap this all up, to your point, Ghost of Gibson, this like for a week, I like texted multiple girls and met up on multiple dates in like 1 week with all different like with a couple of different girls. And like ironically, once you, especially if they're not total retards, if they're coming into it like earnestly and trying to like get to know you, and they do like very quickly sort of have a very strong affection for you, you actually feel like a terrible, terrible fucking person doing that to all of them. Even the ones that I didn't even like bang, the girls that I just sort of went on a date with, one like the disappointment when they could tell that I was like sort of in this space of like other women around. It was just like the worst experience ever. And I was like, wow, I can't believe any of these fucktards feel the need to obsessively and compulsively do this and then promulgate to other men that they need to be doing this all the time.
Yeah, to who was he? Ghost's point?
Yeah.
It fucks up the dating pool, and other guys get to suffer from those types of interactions down the line.
Yeah.
Well, how many
And
of us have heard the girl talk about her ex-boyfriend as if there was only one, but it's always that
Yeah.
guy they dated for 6 years that they, the whole time they wanted to marry him, and the whole time it was not, and that's the guy. And it's like, are you going to be that guy?
yep.
I just wanted to.
No, I dump his ass. Dump her ass.
I was just gonna
As soon as a
add.
girl brings up an ex, you gotta dump her.
As soon as she brings up marriage, you got to dump her. Is that what you said?
No, as soon as she, oh, sorry, I'm on the treadmill doing some cardio. As soon as she brings up an ex, you gotta dump her ass.
Yeah, I agree. I
That was
fucking
the
hate that.
wrong.
That's a pet peeve of mine. Like, I don't want to hear
Well, yeah, because
about
it
your
tells you
fucking
she's
exes.
preoccupied with somebody else. She's not.
Exactly.
She's her mentality and her emotions. She's still dealing with that, and a lot of people don't realize how long they are actually dealing with like a breakup. I had like a bad one when I was 21. I remember like the following few days when I would walk into the gym, I wouldn't look the girl behind the front desk in the eye. I would like intentionally not look her in the eye because I felt like because I was so fucked up that my thought was, I felt like even if I did that, look them in the eye, they would like get off on the attention. And the actual
You're
like
not wrong.
and I would feel like I didn't want them to think they like took something from me. And actually through kind of studying psychology and everything that like that, that's emblematic of castration anxiety. You know, on some level, when they hurt us, it feels like they took our masculinity from us. So go ahead, Lawless.
I was just gonna add, like, from my experiences in the past, just, women that would say, "Oh, it's not the same as like my first love or something," and it's like, well, they bring things like up like that, and I'll just be like, well, why are we, doing this if like, you haven't moved on or you haven't progressed? Like they sometimes I think people focus too much on the positives that occurred in the past and not the reason why they moved on or like they broke up, and then it affects like that's what that I kind of understood with what Ghost was saying, is that so many men that like we can't just say men don't create trauma at all in the
Yeah.
past. Like the way so many men are acting these days again relates to like that Sodom and Gomorrah thing. They're not actually trying. They're just doing it because relationships, because they want to get something out of it, like sex or whatever it is. And then that person is affected for the rest of their life, the other person, because like, and then it's up to the next person to, deal with that. But I think in these days you can't like avoid it. Like, if otherwise we'll have a society where, again, people are not reflecting on or taking responsibility for the past, or like addressing those core memories that may have created, yeah, like a point of trauma. I just think my personal take is that part of it we do have to address it. Like if they're, I mean, obviously if they're constantly talking about their ex, then yeah, that's really bad. But we can't just go, oh, that never happened, and I'm not gonna try. I mean, that's just my view. But
Yeah.
anyone
Hey,
else?
you're right. I think casual dating in general is affected both sexes very negatively, and I think the reason I focus on women mostly is men have plenty of accountability for their bad behavior, I feel.
Hmm.
There's a sentiment out there that men and players in particular are pigs and they're ruining it for everybody. Um, but women's bad behavior is not looked at or addressed in common societal circles at all. And that's why it's a sticking point for me.
It's like
But
that.
you guys are right. I mean, it's men too. It's everyone hooked into social media dating. Uh,
Yeah.
it kind of just
Yeah,
destroys the man woman,
it's that whole
the
body
actual
count thing.
relationship.
Like, oh,
Yeah,
what's your body count? Like, that's the most important thing these days.
Yeah,
yeah,
guys, like a lot of guys get so compulsed on that. Well, I had another thought real quick. To your point, eggnog, you know, like in the ex dynamic thing, when the girl's like, "Oh, my ex," like Lawless kind of said it, where it's like, why are you like so enveloped in those feelings? Like on some level, to your point about the female accountability, they have a really tough time like taking control of their thoughts and feelings. And in that case, they have a really tough time distinguishing the difference between a good and healthful relationship versus one that kind of activates their like goonette neurons. You know, the one where it was drama and all of that, that's just like their goonette, you know, neuron compulsion for drug like highs and drug like lows, the excitement,
yep,
the all of that. It's that juvenilism that they're not held accountable. Like we all have to grow up
not at all.
because we're kind of left with no choice. Nobody has any sympathy or does anything for you if you're not grown up versus them like emotionally they never grow up because they still like on some level every living being's like primary goal is to reproduce successfully, and because women don't have to grow up emotionally to reproduce successfully, they don't feel that accountability. They still get to land whatever chad they want without
Pretty
having to
much.
be anything other than like good genetics.
Well, honestly, like we've been talking about the accountability. If a guy doesn't take accountability, the brotherhood will force him to. Unlike women, the sisterhood will not force you to take accountability.
Right.
Not
No,
anymore.
it's the opposite usually. Like you could take. Uh, I was reading recently on X, like, oh, passport bros, don't go be a passport bro because you'll take your trad wife home from, Ukraine or whatever, and American women will encourage her to become a slut. And so the
Yeah,
sisterhood is like the opposite of that.
yeah. Yeah, bro marries a trad wife, thinks she's gonna become a tard wife, and then she actually just becomes a degenerate fucking hoe. That's so
And that's
funny.
that cultural kind of immersion thing. Culture can just totally distort someone's mind if they've never had exposure to it.
Oh yeah, it's the whole joke about the is your girlfriend an Asian or is it an American Asian, right? Because they're different.
Yeah, yeah. Or like uh native Africans, like whenever they're asked about like, African Americans, they're like, they're not fucking African. They're like, fuck them, I hate them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So the one in a similar fashion to the uh, accountability stuff with this girl earlier in the week, there was this retarded defense of that came up, which was that, well, you see, women have organs that need protection, and so they have to have an extra fat layer for protection for their organs there.
I see
And
that.
firstly, I just want to say, the people who saw the first person I saw say this is that page, the redheaded libertarian. I don't know if you guys have seen that girl.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, I saw that. It was like 4 days ago. I
So
remember
she
that.
said that, and I just want to take a moment here to like success motivation, bro. If a woman like that can have a 200,000 follower page and a whole media presence, she probably makes a lot of money, and be that fucking insanely retarded, like, you all can make it, kings, because that just goes to show that a lot of success bro type stuff like on some level has nothing to do with competence, because nobody that's that fucking retarded as to actually unironically make that point has any like business having the image of, I made it and success and all of that, and especially just like, yeah, crazy concept, but did you know that men have organs too? Like, what the fuck? And crazier concept, did you know that you women only have like one extra in that region? And third concept, that would imply that no person exists without like belly fat on their stomach. Like, even crazier concept, some of us can actually work out and flatten our midsection such that there isn't fat there. I know that's like unheard of, but if you actually go to something called a gym, you'll see quite a lot of that. So I just wanted to success bro on that part.
Well,
Yeah,
look,
or
some
just
of you
put the
guys
fork down.
work. I was just gonna say real quick, some of you guys work so hard at your jobs that you're ripped, and I think just the level of understanding fitness, between males and females is different, and you'll hear girls say things like, "Well, I don't want to go to the gym because I don't want to get big," and you can talk to anybody who's big, and they'll tell you how they got, how'd you get your back so big? And they'll laugh at you and they'll go, you could never have your back. What do you mean? It's not going to happen. But
Yeah.
I've been trying
Yeah.
to
Yep.
get my back like this since I was a little kid. I've been lifting
Yeah.
heavy over my head obsessively since I was 8. Like it's not going to happen. Like you couldn't work out that hard.
Yeah, people have this weird thing where firstly, I don't want to get too big. There's never going to be such thing as too big, even if you're a bodybuilder. And like, obviously that like a lot of those guys die, but in terms of like the sentiment and principle of, what would you rather be, too fat or too like jacked, and but their image, like their all of their minds immediately go to the most jacked girl or the most jacked guy they've ever seen, and they're always professionals that abuse PEDs. It's like, you're like, to your point, you're never gonna, there's no possible way you're gonna get that fucking big unless you abuse PEDs and really abuse PEDs for like 5 to 10 years and like borderline have like a doctorate in exercise kinesiology.
Yeah, like live in the gym. On top of abusing those drugs, you have to fucking live in the gym, and then
Yeah, like that's
maybe
their job. They're there like from 9 to 5.
Like I'm not saying it
right.
can't
It's because
happen. Like we've all seen Asian people at the gym, like they have extra muscles, or I don't know, but yeah, it's not the norm.
well, it's because everybody thinks they're the protagonist of the story, right? Amazing
Yeah.
genetics, even though they don't.
Yeah. People think they're the main character of the gym before even entering the gym. It's like,
Exactly.
bro, you got to know everyone knows the leaderboards of the gym. Like when you just walk in, like you're not even on the leaderboard yet. All right. We got this guy with the biggest bench. We got this guy with the best biceps. We got this guy who comes from 7 p.m. to 8 p.m. and he's got a pretty sick deadlift, but his lats could use like that's literally the level of like the leaderboard. So when people come in and act like anybody's paying attention to them with that.
Well, yeah, even like the biggest guys, they're like, man, I wish I had your quads, or I wish I had your calves or something.
Yeah, yeah.
So have you guys heard that taking a load will change your DNA if you're a female? Have you guys read about this? Have you heard about this?
Like a
I
semen a
have.
semen load, you mean?
Yeah, and look, like
Take
the Wikipedia page about semen is way too long for me to do much research, but I'm just gonna say true, because even if it's not true, it's true. Like what really is sex? Eh, It's grounding it in religion would say that sex is not something people should be doing without being married for reasons like it's basically a religious act of submission. And
Hmm.
so think about people committing an act like this, not knowing, basically religiously submitting all of themselves to somebody, and maybe a lot of people, but not, and it almost strikes me as like some kind of possession, like we've mentioned hedonism, and kind of this goonet, the highs and the lows of goonetting, and
Hmm.
really like sex addiction, I think is a real thing.
Yeah.
There's Sex and Love Addicts Anonymous, but this act, not to get too deep, but I think even committing it without being married is, basically an affront to God.
Hmm.
It's not a good idea, I don't think. Or at least if you're not with someone that you have the intent of marrying.
Yeah.
Well, the biggest problem is we see sexual intercourse as just for pleasure, and we don't understand that it's like a contract. I mean, we're all going to die one day, right? So the contract is I pass on my best qualities and you pass on your best qualities. And in a way, we live on while our own bodies die. See, the kid is both of us, right?
Yeah.
But they don't want to have kids anymore. So what's the point of it? And they're in their eyes, they just see it as that. But yeah, because
Yeah,
it's
it's
fun.
material.
Well, that reminds me of the Holy Trinity, and I think that's a really beautiful example of how, God communicates his will to us, as he basically wrote it in to how it's supposed to be done. And if you ground it there, things make a lot more sense.
Absolutely. Go ahead, Lawless. I see your hand up.
I mean, I was just gonna add because I've been doing Bible study recently, and we were up to Acts where it was talking. Paul was visiting Corinth, and back then they had a phrase, because Corinth was like Sin City of the world those days, and they'd have a temple with like 10,000 prostitutes serving Aphrodite and things like that, and it's like you know to that idea with if you give your semen or whatever, your DNA, your load, like there's got to be some kind of like connection going on there, like on another level. Like if we talk spiritual about it, um it's almost like, yeah, again, you're saying, Ghost, it's like you're submitting, or they're submitting themselves 100% to you. How many, and that goes back to the idea, like the body count thing. How many times have people given themselves up and their most like vulnerable, or if some people might say sacred, like state or whatever. But I think a lot of the laws that have been created from Paul's experience was a response to like the damages society can face if there's sexual immorality on a high level. Like Corinth, they had a phrase back then, you'd be Corinthicized or something. Like it was like that's the whole point of Corinthians. The letter to Corinthians was to face this kind of disaster that was being created in front of everyone's eyes. Like imagine, a temple with 10,000 prostitutes and they're just constantly working, and whoever visits the city is basically becomes absorbed and immersed in that, and then they lose a part of themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. So is that so what is how does it go? The DNA, like she her like it changes every cell in the woman's body, like somehow the DNA.
So my understanding is, and this all kind of grounded in what we know about certain flus that were talked about a lot.
Mhm,
There's things that happen when proteins break down in your body,
mhm,
right? And how your body breaks down proteins and where they go. There's different, like with the spike proteins. Did you
mhm.
know that you can touch spike proteins and get them in your body? Which is, I can't remember if it's called like transvection or what the term is, but with spike proteins you can touch them, and if you touch enough of them, it's not the kind of thing where it has to be injected. You have to get fully fucking sick. It's like if it gets on you, it can get in you. And proteins are weird like that. There's a praying mantis it's like this really, really common worm. We've all seen the video of the dude dunking some Thai dude dunking a praying mantis and like rubbing alcohol, and this big fucking worm comes out its ass. So that worm has praying mantis DNA. And
Mm.
they were like, how does it control the praying mantis's thoughts exactly? Well, the worm has evolved inside its body, absorbed a bunch of the proteins that are the same proteins as some of the, let's call them neurotransmitters. I don't know how bugs do it, dudes, but
Right,
it's
right.
some of the same proteins. So the bug thinks it's thinking, but they're just proteins being produced by something else inside its body. And so in this way, you know, they are forever changed if transvection or whatever that term is occurring, which I believe is the mechanism.
Well, do you guys know about that weird disease where deer, they're half dead like zombies? I think it's from a
Chronic
similar protein called prions.
chronic wasting disease. Yeah, prions
Yeah.
are bundles of proteins that basically inhibit neuronal function, and there is not a way to destroy them without literally, fully, like you have to set them on fire, kind of a thing. Cooking doesn't change it. And they found that baboons, when fed deer meat infected with chronic wasting disease, baboons do acquire chronic wasting disease. And I don't have anything against Southerners. I really don't. But I'm just going to say this might explain a little bit of like maybe Florida man, maybe it's not a Florida thing.
Isn't it like that just really speaks to I don't know if everyone in here is entirely religious, but that certainly speaks to like sometimes it is a worthwhile heuristic to just investigate what people have been saying for thousands of fucking years, and especially when it's morality, and especially when it kind of prescribes you to like chill on the fucking drug like pleasantries. I mean, like on some level, people, whether it was spoken to them by God or that you just kind of have this vague like way to pick up on something like that happening, whereby people just have this vague sense of, yeah, okay, I can't exactly explicate why, but you can't be like going around humping everything that walks because it changes you. Like, and when they say it changes you, a lot of people try to like think about what that means, but what we're talking about, this biological component with DNA, like that really speaks to how it's all like there, um so
Yeah, we figured it out a long time ago, thousands of years ago.
yeah.
People don't want to listen these days. We're too materialist, at the risk of sounding
Yeah,
cliche.
Hey, do you guys think the whole midwit thing is just the next rise of the pseudo intellectuals?
they are the
Yeah,
pseudo intellectuals.
they
i'm
literally are.
I'm convinced there's like an actual like evolution. I think you were laughing because I said this yesterday. We're at the stage now where there's like a branch off after Homo sapien. It's like either Homo retardus and Homo functional, or Homo NPC and Homo functional, because you guys have come across, like, not just on Twitter, but like you come across a midwit, there's something really like awful about there's something so off-putting. It's like their existence is like insulting, and the way that they talk, the way that they're so sure of themselves with their gay like empiricism and gay like faggoty little fucking world views and frames that they have. Like I'm seriously convinced, like, in by the time I'm like 80, 90 years old, I mean, we're all pretty young here, but I'm gonna tell my children, if they ever hear that there's like an evolutionary split, to like lobby for my name to be put on it, and lobby for it to be called Homo retardus and Homo functional.
Hey, it's like that meme I sent you. Remember?
Which one?
Hold on, let me see. It's the one where he's like, "I feel offended. Did you like my things because you're so
Oh yeah,
retarded?"
yeah, yeah. That was Richard Spencer. That was so fucking funny.
So did you guys know that autism, and I've joked about this, but this is true. Autism with certain species of hominids was actually a default brain function. And the way I used to joke was, I'm pretty sure everyone used to be autistic, and this new kind of thinking and like, all this stuff we're doing, like this is different. This is new. And I just had a weird feeling about it. So I looked up a couple studies, and one was written by people that wear little hats and like interest. I don't know, coin clippers, let's put it that way.
Yeah.
And they were saying that Neanderthals basically lacked a soul. And I was like, I can't accept this. And I looked into who did those exquisite cave paintings of lions in motion, those mosaics of a lion within a lion within a lion. And I read a study about them that showed that due to the Neanderthalian brain, they had a savant-like hypervisual ability to understand, and it was the difference between, and I can't remember which is which, but it's the difference between top-down thinking and what they call bottom-up thinking, where I'll give an analogy, we see things and they remind us of other things all the time. We see things and they give us feelings. Oh, that's cute. Oh, it's like a
Yeah.
little one of you. Yeah. So that's not how it used to be. It used to be such that, and we all have that autistic friend who doesn't say a lot, but what he does say is important.
Yeah.
Where the original function with these people was an entirely different hypervisual understanding of what was going on around them. And essentially, they built tools. They made fire. They had art. They had art that rivals what autistic savants are capable of today. And
Right.
that's why this is relevant with the rise of autism. They were looking for genetic precursors, which are there in Neanderthalian genetics.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Wow. Yeah. Well, I think a lot of times what people call autistic is just not being a pussy too. When I worked with kids, and you know, like kids, okay, kids eat it up when you're like a strong male figure and you like set the rules for everything and you stay consistent with it. They totally fucking eat it up. But all the big fat babies, the especially, of course, it was women basically. The big fat baby women counselors would be in an uproar all the time about how I was being mean to the kids or whatever. And it's like, you people have like this compulsion for like feelsies all the time. And I know that sounds like gay boomer conservatardism, but all that's to say that, what people call autistic, like, especially women do this. Women have this thing where like they think that if you're not following women's social rules, you're necessarily like autistic, and they almost like condescend you with that. I remember in high school how irritating it was that women would like patronize me over like I would say the things that we're not supposed to say, the truth, right? We all do that on here all day. We say the truth, but because that like upsets the apple cart, because that makes people like uncomfortable or whatever, you're like categorized as autistic and like socially unfunctional. And it's like, no, I'm just not a retard. And speak like they think it's like autistic and retarded because they think it's in everyone's best interest, like your primary concern at all times of every day is to keep the social cohesion and to keep people not feeling badsies and only feeling goodsies. And it's like, as a matter of fact, you have to be pretty stupid to not be able to see beyond social cohesion. Like, if you're speaking truth at any given moment, it doesn't, you don't even have to say something controversial. Like, you could say something that's like and someone on here is going to DM you to what yourself. So it goes to say that the autism stuff, it well, to your
It
point that it probably is the actually higher form, what we call autism, especially because it evolved from Neanderthals. But all that's to say, what people call autism now is really just not being a giant pussy and not looking ahead at the later and greater good for the group, as opposed to what immediately makes everyone feel good.
would it be not adhering to the rules that were set, like making your own rules, but then because you're saying what you think and it goes against the grain, you're seen as antisocial or breaking up the cohesion, and you're seen as a villain,
Right.
as they said.
Yeah.
Yeah, a disruptor.
Yeah,
That's a prerequisite for leadership.
it's just rebranding, right? It's antisocial, now it's autistic. What the hell is it gonna be next?
Right.
Incel is the
Hey,
popular one.
that is true.
Heckin' incel, heckin' insecure, Barnes and Noble psychologists. Every person who calls me that, I call them a Barnes and Noble psychologist.
They're not even good psychologists. They suck.
They said, and it's funny because you could actually reverse the psychology on them in that if all they could ever come up with is incel, insecure, like they think that what you're doing is a pathology cope because everything that they do is a like everything that they do think and say is a cope, so they can't imagine somebody actually having an opinion for the sake of having an opinion and seeing it as truth and valuing it, so they necessarily categorize it as incel or whatever because they just sit there and they think, well, that's the only reason I would do that because everything in my life is about my
Right.
copes.
Women's only agency is their sexual appeal. Like,
Yeah.
don't listen to what they say otherwise. Look at how they act on social media. That's all you need to look at.
Yeah.
And so they call you incel because they think men are just large women that don't cry. And
Yeah.
they think that's going to hurt your feelings. And it's not. It's not. Men and women are not equal in that way.
Yeah, they're not even like because we're calling people retarded all day online, but we're all like good at it and we know when it makes sense and it's like based in epic and cool. And when they do it, it's just like always like, if anything, they're the socially inept ones. Like I think the other day I was saying war torn and like we were talking to some retard, and you could tell when they like rehearse. They practically get up every morning and rehearse those lines in the mirror and say like, "Oh yeah, well you're a freaking incel." Or like oh they blah 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 that's gay, and they'll just like spew it out whenever they think that they're like about to win, whenever they think it's going to be an own, but it's always like not well timed and it's always not well done to the point of it's like, okay, you're just like a retard.
Now that you say it out loud, it's like the leftoids, they always have the same coping mechanisms. It's really female coded, isn't it?
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, absolutely. Our whole society is female coded now.
Yeah.
It's a matriarchy. We're in a
Well, it makes
matriarchy.
sense. It makes sense that they wanted to get rid of the what is it, the Cub Scouts or the Boy Scouts?
Boy Scouts.
Yeah, the getting rid of that puts more female stuff in like in the little kids and stuff,
Yeah,
so
men
they
don't
don't grow
get
up
to have any
properly.
spaces anymore.
I think the
And didn't
most
the guys that
pernicious.
started?
Go ahead.
Go ahead. Oh, I was gonna say real quick. I think the guys that started the Boy Scouts were Nazis or something too. They were like
Based.
uber based. I
Based.
can't remember. Yeah, I can't
Based.
remember how based, but they were so based that the women couldn't handle it.
I think the most pernicious way that femoid, sentiment and psycho and like identification has infiltrated, and I talk about these characters a lot. The beer and boobs masculinity guys, or even this guy that's been circulating the past day or two, this bodybuilder guy that gets up at 3 a.m. and like drinks his gay coffees, his gay matcha
Oh yeah.
coffees,
The
and like
banana.
does his fucking makeup every morning. That him characters like that and the beer and boobs masculinity guys. Uh, what's interesting is they've adopted this idea that so long as I appear masculine, I am masculine, and it's like a sexual mimicry strategy firstly, it saves them the effort of actually being masculine, that optimization of energy instinct, but also they adopt, like, completely adopt the idea that it's about appearance, and like, oh, look, I have a beard, and if any of you guys have a beard, it's based in Epic and Cool and Chat and Alpha when you do it, because you're doing it just
Of
because that's
course.
what you want to do. When these types do it, it's like a gay, like, you could tell it's intentionally to have a appearance, and you could tell that, like, when they were 13 years old, they read shit in, like, Men's Health magazine, like having a beard is manly, and then that just sticks with their brain the rest of their lives, and they're perpetually taking care of their stupid fucking beards. And to the point of, like, they have beard oils and all this stuff, and, like, if any of you guys do it, it's based though. But if they'll have, like, these beard oils, and they'll have, like, a beard routine. And the last layer to this I'll say is, this is, like, really badly exemplified when I was in the military. A lot of these guys were like, We should be able to grow beards," and, like, whining about that. And it's like, they really think that, like, it's as simple as they're figuring that because beard and facial hair is exclusive to males, the more strongly they demonstrate that, and illustrate that, and have and identify with that, the more masculine they are, and then they think that'll, like, attract women. They'll think that that's how they could differentiate themselves to women. And, oh, like, and it's just gay, it's adolescent. I remember being 14 and everyone arguing over who had a better beard and stuff. So that there is this problem of identifying with masculinity just by appearing masculine and not being masculine. If you want to appear masculine, you could just be masculine, and your appearance will speak for itself.
They've appropriated our culture, man. Because now
Yeah.
it's if you have a beard, you're like a soy boy. And it's like, what? I
Well,
just
I
want to
think
have a beard, man.
the females
It's
don't
like
really.
children playing pretend,
I was going to say they
right?
don't seem to understand true masculinity either. I think, let's look at, some races that are really popular right now and cool.
Mhm,
Um, they can talk really fast and stuff, and they do poetry good. And they play the drums, right? So
mhm.
they have that I've looked into this. Why are they all gay, even though they're 13% of the population? They're 50% of the fake and gay. Um, they
It's
have
kind of odd, yeah.
really, really high estrogen levels. They have normal testosterone, which is surprising, but they have very high estrogen levels. And anybody
Really? Is that real? I always heard that they had higher testosterone and they were like the warrior gene or whatever.
normal test,
No.
really high. I'll post the study if you like too. I'm really, really big on posting links. Like that's just how I diss people. I'm like, there's a study that says your race is retarded. I don't know if you knew that, but that that identification with this type of specific bad boy is definitely feminine, right? And why are they all gay? Well, that's why women think they're those that unhinged, violence, and that just basically imagine all they did was slap people and Glocks didn't exist. Like they would just be
Mhm.
girls, right? But
Right.
Glocks exist, and unfortunately that's not the reality. So
That's interesting. So having higher estrogen levels in conjunction with
oh,
testosterone causes one to be violent? Is that what you're saying?
It's
look at
electrical.
domestic violence among female couples, and you'll understand. Yeah,
Yeah,
anytime you
yeah,
have the estrogen with men, things get really, really fucked up as far as their mood goes.
yeah.
Yeah, it's always kind of been a meme to say, like, higher T necessarily implies, like, anger or something like that, or like, I mean, aggression. Like, it's another meme of women call assertion aggression. The amount of times that women have, like, mouthed off to me, and I've said, like, I've literally said it just like this. I've said, like, "Excuse me, I will not be spoken to like that," and I'll have my, like, finger up and everything, and, like, they'll immediately, like, tell the boss on me, say that I was screaming at them, saying that I was aggressive or whatever. And I think that's where that meme comes from. Like, they feel that as aggressive because it's just so out of the norm for them. But to your point, like, women in those lesbian couples, their violence is more so a product of emotional instability and emotional uncontrol.
I mean, we've all been hit by by a woman, right? And it's, once wasn't a big deal, but like imagine, you're a girl and you get hit in the face, it's like, yeah,
Yeah.
it's not, men can certainly handle it and kind of a turn the cheek, like, okay, so what? Like, are you really going to, but of course, abuse is abuse. No one should stand up for that.
Yeah.
Well, what do they say about lesbian couples? They have like the highest domestic violence
Oh,
rates as well as the highest divorce rates, and it's like the gays have the lowest domestic violence and lowest marriage or divorces. So like, who's really the problem? And when you put that in front of a woman's face, they still won't believe it, even though it's not an opinion, it's facts.
That's so
Well,
funny.
it's like when you're in a relationship, most guys will even if they're wrong, which that's wrong, obviously, but usually always apologizing. If it's two women, none of them are gonna apologize. So it's obvious there's gonna be problems.
Yeah, what do they do? That's funny. What do they do when it's two lesbians and neither of them are ever going to admit they're wrong? It's like dividing 0 by 0.
Oh,
They
the
start
answer
boxing.
is cheating on your partner.
Do they have the highest rates of infidelity too?
That's what I
Yeah,
Yeah.
read.
yeah, they do.
It's really bad. I think
They think it's
technically
nice.
gay dudes, because they literally like there's stats on how many gay dudes like have sex with, and it's like it would blow your mind. But as far as initiating the breakup of marriages, domestic abuse, those types of things, even certain types of infanticide, women um, really lead in those losing statistics.
I think I keep hearing some of them try to give this epic own of like, women are the problem, and this is like the per capita meme where they're like, well, did you know that 98% of whatever sort of like weirdly like creepy thing like bestiality, I think, is their meme. They'll be like, did you know that 98% of bestiality is committed exclusively by men? And it's just like, do we actually have to do the per capita meme with like this? Because I don't even have to look at it to surmise that that's like a fraction of a percent of men that actually like fuck horses or whatever.
Every time somebody says that to me, I always clown on them and I say, "Oh yeah, then how come that meme of the white girl exists?" And then they get mad.
Well, the truth of the matter is,
That's a good
there
point.
are men in a lot of countries that do that, like Colombia. There was like a whole documentary about guys in Colombia that fuck. I think it was Vice that did it. Of course, right? They're awful.
Yeah.
They're like, we're just curious if you fuck donkeys. We wanted to film it for no reason. We're just curious. But that is really so I would say, okay, well, let's look up a world map of bestiality, incest, inbreeding, and let's look at where the dark purple zones are. Oh, Africa, the Middle East. What
Yeah,
do you
that's
know?
a good one.
Israel is a real. Who would have thought?
Yeah, whenever women are like, did you know that men do 90% of like the domestic violence or like some stupid thing that they say? I'm always like, oh yeah, why don't you take that one level down and say which men?
Have you guys heard about how to debunk the bear in the woods meme? Where if you propose the bear in the woods question to a female, you just simply rephrase it. Would you rather spend, a night alone in the woods with a black man you didn't know or a bear? And they're kind of stuck.
Hey,
Yeah,
Mar-
yeah, short
Marchese,
circuit.
Marchese, remember when I sent you that meme of that girl with that bear, and then she was like, "Oh, please help me," to the guys?
Yeah, 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 yeah. The
Grizzle,
bear thing
grizzle.
was so stupid too because that was really like, you know how women do this thing where they have to like make the point that like men are big fat meanie stupid jerks or whatever. They have this like reflex that they can't help whenever there's an opportunity to like suggest that they hate men or something, they'll like say it, like the bear or whatever. I remember there was this one time I posted this video way back, like in 2016, of me doing lap pull downs. And I just made like a silly little, bullshit self-deprecation jokes where I was like, yeah, pulling down 115 pounds, pulling down zero panties. And like girls that never like really commented on any of my stuff, never liked it. They all liked it and they did that thing where like they had to type like haha, haha. And have you ever experienced that where it's like something like that will happen and every woman in the room like instantaneously laughs and like inappropriately loudly and like goes, dude, that was so funny, oh my gosh, that was like so funny. It's like, what is wrong with you people? Like, you people are really, like, women really are fucking retarded with that. It's like, can you just relax? Can you like grow up?
Well, look at female
Nope.
comedians. Like the bit is typically, ABC formula, like, hey guys, my vagina, some cuss words. Hey, I'm vulgar. Okay, ha ha
Yeah,
ha. My,
yeah,
my vagina.
yeah. And it's like, what's funny about that? They think that's funny because it's like, uh, it's funny to them because that's what they're preoccupied with. Like 90% of their thoughts are about like sex and their vagina. And so, but they're not allowed to say it out loud. So when they say it out loud, it's like funny because it's like relatable to them, I guess. Real like, there's such like a meme. Like that meme, that guy, I have a screenshot of it where the guy was like, women will post this shit and then wonder why the entire planet and every major religion and civilization has imposed strict restrictions on their sovereignty since like the dawn of time. And it's just like, dude, that's so real.
Hmm. Maybe there's something to that.
Yeah.
Yeah, the one part of the Quran I agree with.
Yeah, it's so funny when boomer conservatards are like, this is fucked up. They make women dress in that. And I'm just like, okay, based? Hello, base department? Or that
Well,
video
it's
where,
it's extreme. It's true, but
yeah. Or
it's the
like,
right idea.
that video. Well, the point is, the idea is correct, but to your point, it takes it far because I mean, it's just going to make them restless anyway. But like people like, you know, sometimes when I see that, I'm like, what are you mad about? That you can't stick your tits out? It's like, oh no, the horror, you know. Or it's like that interview where the woman was with the Taliban. I don't know if you guys saw this. This was circulating a little while ago. She was interviewing the Taliban guys, and they were like, "Well, like, do you ever see a day where you'll have women like in power?" And he just like laughs. He's just like, "Bro," he's like, "All right, turn the camera off."
Yeah, they're like, we gotta go.
Even a lot of
All right,
women will
Marty, I'm gonna
agree
go take
that.
a shit.
Good luck, bro. Godspeed.
Alrighty, bro. Good to see you.
Even a lot of women will admit that women should not be authority figures.
Isn't it
On
interesting?
average.
It is interesting that it's women over like 30, 40 years old and married that are like that join in on like making fun of like 20 something women. There's something to be said for that. It goes to show that like they can like on some level be, you know, not insufferable. It just takes them longer to get to that point usually.
Well, most men that are insufferable die out. That's the difference, you know?
True. Very true.
All right, I gotta go, guys.
Alrighty, good to see you. Yeah, I have
Later.
to go. I have a client at 3, so I'll try to wrap this up in like a half hour anyway. One layer that, because I have the title here, "Return to Skinny Girls Psychoanalysis," so I'll just say what I see with that. So this this debate earlier in the week with the girl, it reveals something that I'm seeing, that, and it's not necessarily everybody who's, likes the skinnier girl better, but I think there's a dynamic going on here. I think there's a cope going on here whereby, I mean, people will still disagree, but I do think that there's like just denying like when some girls are attractive, and whatever like thing you could say about it, like the hips to waist ratio, whatever, the big breasts, but so I think there's like a denial in that, but some people will still say, I think it's much more everyone can come to terms about it if they could identify the difference between like would and be proud and brag about it versus like would but wouldn't really be like all that bragful or proud about it. So I think this return to skinny girls thing, a lot of these guys are playing a game of two games, the game of I'll show them and the game of reject them before they reject me. And I think it's because there is something annoyingly emasculating about how much power our attraction to females holds over us. Like we can just like instantly upon looking at them we know whether or not we're attracted to them, and some of them are very very attractive, and there's a power in that that I think a lot of us don't like appreciate and struggle with. It is emasculating in some way. So I think that a lot of these guys, they're playing this game of they're going to compensate for that, and not that everyone does this. They're going to compensate for that by trying to strip that power away by saying she's not attractive in the first place. And they do that by saying, "Oh, well, I actually like the skinny girl." And the skinny girl part is important because our attraction is not just a looks thing. It is a psychological feeling thing, namely that we like the smallness. We like women when women have this general air or vibe of smallness, and skinny girls are exactly that. They are physically much less imposing. And so there's that smallness that translates to making us feel a bigness, feeling a power or powerful. And so I think a lot of these guys are playing that game whereby they try to usurp their power back by discounting that attraction and saying that the smaller girl is attractive because that smallness exacerbates their bigness. And the just thinking about it, the female version of that is when they say the 6 foot thing, what they're really actually asking for or saying they want a guy who has this vague sense of bigness, this vague sense of strong presence. It doesn't necessarily have to be exactly 6 feet. It just has to make them feel that they are small. So that's what that part. Let me know what you guys' thoughts are. If you like the skinny girl, it's based in Epic and Cool and Shad and Alpha when you do it. But I think there's something to be said for these characters who are playing this game of trying to take back power. What happened? We just lost a bunch of people.
No, I'm still here. I was listening to you guys. I was just getting done with the
Oh
treadmill
no,
and
you're
all that.
good. I just saw a couple people drop, so I was like, did my internet go out?
Just
But
figured it. I didn't know if I can get in and out. You guys do these states normally states. Are you guys in the USA or are you in a different country?
we're USA. I think a couple of us. Lawless was New Zealand. I'm USA. I think War Torn's USA.
I got you. Yeah, I'm in Arizona, so yeah, I'm in the USA as well.
Oh, nice.
Yeah, because I heard you say it was like 3 over there. I was like, oh, he's probably in a different country.
We had a Russian guy a little while ago.
But are you guys all married as well?
I'm married. Not sure if everyone else is. Got married not too long ago, actually. This was in, well, we legally married in 2023, and then we did the wedding in 2024.
Oh, I got you. Right on. Congrats.
Thanks.
I did mine through the church this time. I did the whole one through the courts. I think the Lord I had a prenup, but she did the whole bait and switch on me before I divorced her. So I was like, that took 18 months for that divorce.
Yeah,
So
dude, brutal.
yeah, she was going for everything, and it's like, listen, you're not getting anything.
Let's
Alimony,
go.
half my business and all that, but
Yep.
18 months and what was 183K in lawyer fees. She pissed the judge off because she kept fighting the prenup. And when it got back after it got denied a third request, she was ordered to pay half my attorney fees, and yeah, she was definitely not having that.
Let's go. That's funny.
Yeah, well, it's just, even with the prenup, I wish no guy goes through that divorce because that's the fucking pain. But even with the prenup, I thought they could never challenge that, and I didn't know that until, here I am after I started with divorce papers. She wanted to fucking definitely not let me go and all that, and she had no lawyer, no prenup. Here I am with one of the best lawyers in a prenup, and it still took 18 months. I was like, fucking A, just end this shit. And when you're going through a divorce, it's like you're sitting in limbo. Like, you can't go buy a new house, you can't get a new car, nothing, because technically you're still married, even though you're in the process of divorce. So she can technically claim half of it. And
Oh wow, yeah, that's
yeah, yeah. So I was like just sitting in limbo. When I finally got her kicked out of my house, that's when all these allegations started coming out because I had 2 kids with my ex-wife, and what she wanted to do was take them out of state and go back to her own original state where she moved from. And I was like, "Fuck that! You can go. The kids aren't going."
yeah, yeah,
It's just like, you can get the fuck out of here. When she's like, "Well, what about if you have them on the summers?" Like, fuck you. You're staying here, or you move and the kids stay here with me. That's it. So this one, my current wife, she's actually from Russia. It was kind of funny how I met her. She was technically my babysitter for my kids when I was divorcing my first wife. She didn't even speak any English. Um, she was only 18 at the time. I'm 37. Well, now I was 32 when I met her, but
uh-huh,
yeah. Then she became my full-time nanny, and when she wanted to make it official, I was like, okay, here's the Rosetta Stone. You need to learn English, like, because we were doing the whole Google Translate shit, and if you ever done that Google Translate, it never translates out 100% of the time. So that was like a barrier
yeah,
for us. But she picked it up really easy though. After about 6 months, she was like probably about 70-80% fluent in English. So it worked out. It worked out really well. I
that's
just
great. Damn, yeah, bro, that sucks. So you got divorced twice?
once hopefully
Once.
not. Yeah. So this one, she offered to sign the prenup, but I was like, nope, I'm not doing that shit again. It's just a piece of paper, in my opinion now, because my mind's already changed on marriage in general since I went through the whole process of marriage and divorce. And she was cool with this. She's like, that's fine, because all it is, in my opinion, is just a piece of paper, just saying so and so can
Yeah,
screw you over in the future and all that. Even if you have a prenup, there's a good chance that with the courts, a man really finds out he's a second-class citizen when he's facing the law and the courts and all that stuff. Because my ex-wife actually got me kicked out of my own house that I brought into the marriage. It was my name on it. I had this house before I even met my ex-wife, and she got me kicked out for a week. And I was like, "What
that's
the?"
fucking crazy, bro.
Yeah, I just get a call from the sheriff's department. Hey, I need to meet up with you. I'm like, okay. And I was like, hey, well, I'm here working at this house because I'm a general contractor. We're doing this
Hmm.
project. So he came over and gave me these papers. Like, yeah, you can't go back to your house. I'm like, what the fuck? That's my house. What the fuck? So I was like, all right, I gotta go fight this in court. So a week later, in front of a judge, and he kicked her out of the house because obviously it was my property. But just the shit that you have to go through. So I was like, yeah, won't do that shit again.
Yeah, yeah, that sucks, bro. But glad you're doing better. Glad you found your Russian wife. The 6 months fluency is crazy. And to your point, yeah, the translation, even looking up translations is retarded sometimes. I've taught myself some German. I preemptively taught my firstly I taught myself German because I have family in the Netherlands actually, and they speak Dutch, right? So I learned German. But if you know English and German, you know Dutch, and I figured it would just be more prominent and more useful to teach myself some German. But I find it really insufferable when learning languages and they translate it just like, yeah, you can't always exactly translate it, but at the same time, like, keep it as close as possible because you have to understand how they think. And a lot of times, a lot of these words are cognates that really, it makes sense if you just translate it directly over through its cognates. An example, and there's so many examples in German. One of the first words you learn is right. The word for dog is der Hund, But really you should know that that translates to hound. And it, like, if I hear somebody say hound, I know what they're talking about. They're talking about a dog. Or that movie that was floating around, All Quiet on the Western Front. If you look at the German title of that, the German title of that really in English, in the West, nothing new. And if you translated it directly, that's exactly how in der West nichts Neues, or something like that. And so if you translated it directly, it does make sense. It's a little goofy sounding, but it makes sense, and you should do that to learn how the other language speaks, or more accurately, how the other language thinks. Uh, so yeah, I just thought of that. But yeah, the divorce stuff. Yeah, I don't anticipate. Obviously, you get married and you don't anticipate getting divorced and everything.
Yeah.
Most of the reason me and my wife did the paperwork for that is because she's Canadian, actually. So we had to have that paper trail for her to come here and for me to go there. I'm actually moving there next week, so
All right.
it's funny. I hope some libtard that like hate stalks me hears this, because they're gonna be like, so you don't freaking like immigration, but you're freaking immigrating to Canada. I'm like, yeah, because it's about race, actually. Crazy concepts, but there's not an inconsistency here.
Yeah, right on. No, I haven't been to Canada. Here it's really nice out there. Here it's a lot colder, well, compared to where I'm at. It's, over here in Arizona, we don't get snow, but that's cool that you're moving over there. What state are you moving from?
I'm moving from New York, so you can imagine.
Oh, yeah, so you guys got that brutal weather over there too.
Yeah, I hate it so much. As soon as we get her papers back for her to come to the United States, heading straight down south.
So that way you guys both have that, what is it, the dual citizenship?
Yeah, well, you have to get naturalized for that to happen. So you have to maintain your permanent residency for like it's like certain number of days actually in country within 5 years. It's actually not that much. It's only like 200 something, but you have to navigate it that way, and then you can apply for naturalization.
Yeah, what is it in Canada? I know they speak English, but isn't French another big language over there?
Yeah, they legally officially have their English and French as their legal official languages. So everything there you'll see in English, and then you'll see beneath it in French. Sometimes you might see that here with English and Spanish, but you don't see it as commonly. But there, everything you see has like the French name right next to it.
Yeah, they're actually going through their whole um, their president or they call it prime minister down there.
Yeah.
Is that right? Yeah. So they're actually going through that right now, aren't they? Or isn't there an election coming up here soon?
Yeah, I think they all voted a week or two ago or something.
Okay, was that for the primary to pick the Republican and the Democrat nominee, or was that the actual prime minister?
I think that was for actual prime minister.
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
yeah, I'm like American chauvinist mode with that. I don't know too much about their politics. I just know that their governmental structure, it's similar, like what we call states, they call provinces, and I think I don't even know what they're called, but like New York State Police, you'll have Ontario provincial police. So on some level, it is similar, but in that case, like with the prime minister and everything, I think that's like a parliamentary government. I'm revealing myself to be like low IQ with the politics here, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is.
Yeah, gotcha. Yeah, no, I was interested in going to Russia, but I was kind of a little bit nervous as American. You kind
Yeah,
of like gotta really study the country that you're going to. So
right.
that's why I haven't gone to Russia. But that's when my wife, when I met my wife, she had only been here for not even a month and a half. How I got lucky with her because I get the whole marriage thing to make the whole, the citizen and all that. She
Yeah.
was so her dad. I never got to meet her dad. He had died of some cancer. Um, but how she was technically born in New Jersey. Her mom was technically the American. Her parents were
Ah,
Russian, But she was technically born here in New Jersey, so that's technically how she got her citizenship. But she went back to Russia. She was only here in USA for like a month, and so, but still, she was still considered a citizen. So she
Oh,
moved
wow. Okay,
over.
yeah.
Yeah, so that's kind of how I didn't have to technically do the marriage, the paperwork marriage to make her a citizen. She
Right.
moved back here about 2 months before she turned 19. That's technically around the same time I met her. This is right when Russia and Ukraine were starting back up with their war and all that.
Right.
So that's technically how I kind of lucked out, I guess you could say, on the whole marriage, because she was technically already a citizen since she was born here in New Jersey. But yeah, no English at all. We were giving each other the deer in the headlight look, but it worked out. I had done some work for her mom because I run a plumbing HVAC electrical company, and her mom called me back from additional work, and that's when I met now my current wife. She asked me if I had any work for her, and I was like, I don't think your daughter wants to do this type of work. This is dad work. And I was like, you know what? Yeah, you can hire her as my babysitter. So yeah, that's how it all worked out.
Nice.
Yeah, rare case, but yeah, it worked out. I just had three rules: no social media, obviously no guy friends, and the number one most important rule: no single girlfriends.
Base.
Single girls they keep each other single. They're just jealous of each other and all that. And she's cool with
Base.
it. So I don't want her to become Americanized. Um,
Yeah.
it's just, I mean, the Westernized mindset is very toxic to women, is what I say.
That kind of reminds me, I don't know if you guys watch Nick Fuentes, but whenever he talks about like when he wants to have a wife, he says, ideally she just like doesn't speak English and she just like doesn't talk to me at all. That just
You, you,
reminds me of that.
I know what you're talking about. I've seen that clip too. I was like, maybe I should have learned Russian.
Yeah.
Um, you know, just because who the hell knows Russian in USA? I mean, I'm bilingual. My first language is Spanish. Maybe you'll get some Spanish people, but who the hell who the hell speaks Russision or even
Yeah.
Chinese, for example, you know? So I was like, maybe I should have just learned Russian myself, but
Bro,
I have
get
this,
Duolingo.
yeah,
Duolingo's fun. It's silly. It's easy. Do it.
I have those headphones though, um, where let's just say someone speaks Chinese or Farsi. Um, it'll translate it to me. It looks like they're just like headphones for when you're talking on the phone, which they do as well. But I could walk
Oh
into a
wow.
converse. Yeah, it's actually pretty awesome. And my cameras that I have at the beginning, because I was just getting out of divorce, so I was kind of like really like not trusting any woman. So I was like, let me see if this girl's fucking talking shit to me. And she
You bought
never
a bunch
did
of
it.
Russian cameras.
Yeah, I was just like, what the fuck is shit? Because I don't know no Russian, but no, my wife never said anything bad about me. Her mom is really based too. She's like one of those old school women. She's never had a relationship after her husband died. Uh,
Wow.
she was brought up by a really good mother and father, I should say.
Look, that's really
Wow.
sweet, dude. Congratulations. And I got to say, God bless you both. I hope you guys have like 10 kids.
Yeah, we're working on a boy next because I have 4 kids, two with my ex-wife, two with my current, and I have a son and 3 daughters. So of course she wants the boy.
I know,
So
dude.
hopefully,
You told me you speak Spanish, so I assume you've got like 7 kids. No, I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
oh no, you got to see my dad. My dad is what 22 kids. So that's typically the typical stare. Yeah, you're right about that. My uncle, my dad's brother, he has 20 kids. So that's the Mexicans fucking really have that stereotype of having
Bro,
fucking
dude,
many
that's
kids.
absurd. That's awesome.
And it isn't from all one woman. My dad has like what 22 kids.
2 wives
My
in
mom,
Mexico.
yeah, like I think it's 6 or 7 different women that he has, or no, I'm sorry, 7, 8 women that he has the 22 kids with, including my mom. Yeah, so I wouldn't be surprised if somewhere in fucking
Bro's an
Mexico that,
animal.
yeah, my youngest brother is as old as my son. So think about that. When they're in school, you can call him uncle. You know what I mean? How weird as fuck is that?
You know
Yeah,
that
but I have my
meme? It's
youngest
like
brother.
You're like, am I winning, Dad? He's like, I mean, you're like a quarter of the way there.
Yeah, man, my dad just fucking kept popping out kids like it was nothing and all that. So nah, two women is a lot for me. So I
Yeah.
just no more after, hopefully I get the boy this one because I think I'm gonna be done because
Yeah,
I'm
good
gonna
for
be like,
you.
I'll be looking like a grandpa when it comes to my kids' graduation and all that.
Yeah, thank you for your service.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah, 4 years in the Marine Corps. Got out right out of high school. What got me into it was watching that movie Full Metal Jacket. You were in the military too, weren't you?
I was Army. I actually got
Okay.
out about 2 years ago because I was a vax refuser. I was a W Chad Alpha vax refuser. And I think you can relate that like the military has this like sycophant culture, this obsequious worship of like the principles or whatever and the discipline. Basically, a lot of them are beer and boobs masculinity guys, where they get in and they think that they're like tough guys now, and they think they have to follow every last little principle to be like a tough guy. So they get like really fucking freaked out over every last little, army mantra or something. The Marine Corps might be similar, might be different, but yeah, I got out for refusing the vax. I wrote an article about it. It was tricky because I was waiting for a year for my religious exemption to come back. But by the time it came back, I only had a few months before NDAA 2023 was going to be passed. So I was like a couple months in. I got my orders to separate like the day before the winter break. And then, of course, no, good luck getting fucking government workers to do anything between December like 5th to January 31st. So when I came back, NDAA 2023 was passed. So I had to do this whole convoluted other way, what we call Chapter 15, which is a separation under secretarial plenary authority, which basically means you're just asking the secretary to separate you given the circumstance. And that was authorized for me to even ask because of the whole COVID vax thing. And I was like really fucking freaking out because I finally landed an internship in industrial engineering. So, but like I graduated with my bachelor in math in 2019, couldn't really manage to get the math bro job after that. So that was one of the reasons I joined the military. And then I finally was getting my foot in the door. And,
Right on.
so I had my foot in the door with this internship, but this paperwork was like pushing it to the last minute. And I couldn't, I'd be fucked if I tried to leave without the authorization. It was like the weekend before I had to go down there. It was actually in New Jersey. uh, it was like the weekend before, so I had to just like pack up and go the next day. And I was finally out, and I started the internship, and then one thing leads to another. I got the job thereafter, but what sucked about that was for those first 2 months, I was basically actually homeless because I didn't have time to find a real serious apartment. So what I had to do was Jersey was close enough to my hometown that I would get a hotel from Monday night to Thursday night, and then drive back on the or excuse me, yeah, Monday night to Thursday night, drive back Friday evenings to my hometown just to save like the fraction of a buck for not having the hotel room Friday, Saturday, Sunday night. And I had to do that for 2 months. That fucking sucked. But all that's to say that the military, yeah, I was in, and I got out not too long ago because of that.
Yeah, well, no, thanks for your service. So how did they do that? I ES back in 2010, so this is well before this whole COVID came out.
Yeah,
But
yeah.
did you get a dishonorable discharge because you didn't take? I mean, I didn't take the vaccine. I would never. But did you guys get dishonorable discharge, or did you guys still get honorable discharge because you guys were?
No, because of the NDAA 2023 passing such that they weren't allowed to kick you out anymore for that, and all orders to separate under the vaccine refusal were nullified. I got characterized. My service was characterized as honorable, but well into the COVID stuff, like within the first couple of months of the people, within the first couple months of the order coming down to kick out people for refusing the COVID vax, Congress passed a law that said that the lowest possible characterization of the service there would be general. Nobody was allowed to get kicked out with anything less than a general. So it was either honorable or general. For those of you guys that don't know the difference, at least in the Army, the only difference really is that under general, you just lose your GI Bill. You don't start getting kind of fucked until you get under general, which the next level down is other than honorable, and then below that is bad conduct, and then the lowest is dishonorable. And just the shorthand way to know like how it all works is like you have to try to get a dishonorable. You have to like literally commit fucking war crimes, betray your country, and like rape 20 people for you to get dishonorable. I knew a guy who got caught like selling drugs and he got characterized as like honorable. So
Wow. Yeah, because you know how when if you know someone that got a dishonorable discharge, that's basically like it's like a felony in in the military, but that's even worse. It's like I'm just imagining trying to get a job if you got they even look at those even a lot worse than felonies. It's like
yeah,
you're
and
pretty much
I
fucked.
tried to tell people though, like I tried to tell a lot of guys, you don't have to worry all that much about that because like you don't have to tell employers that you were in the military at all, and you don't even have to tell them what character of service you are, and it doesn't show up on a background check, and most employers don't even background check you. So for the most part, a lot of people are much safer with that than they'd think. But if it goes under a separate category of like it still shows up as like a criminal record, then that will probably show up on like a background check and everything. But the characterization of your service doesn't show up at all on most background checks.
Yeah, when I did my this is back in my college days. I mean, I had nothing to worry about. I mean, the only worst thing I had on my record was what a speeding ticket when I was like 16 years old. But
Right.
um, I was working for Raytheon in procurement, and like
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
like those government related jobs, they come
Yeah,
through
it'll show
those.
up for them for
Yeah,
sure. Yeah.
yeah, because you have to get that clearance card and all that. So, but yeah, yeah, you're right about that. Like if you're just doing something that's not government related, it definitely won't pop up. That's for sure.
Yeah. So I don't know if the rest of you guys heard my bit on the return to skinny girls. I'll just say it again if anybody didn't hear it. Long story short is I think a lot of the skinny girl stuff. I mean, some people have this opinion because they're based in Epic and Chat and Alpha, but the skinny girl stuff. Uh, I think a lot of times it's just people trying to take back power from the powerlessness you feel when you're like very attracted to somebody. So I have a tweet on that in this the thread of this space that I have pinned on my profile here. So if anybody was still interested in that, but we kind of lost everybody.
No, I'll definitely
I
check
got
it
to
out.
wrap this up soon too.
Yeah, yeah. If anytime you can do some spaces, I'll definitely come join. It's nice to meet you guys in here. I think
Yeah, nice to meet you.
I think I found you in I don't know if it was Raylan space or Luffy space. I think that's
I
where.
think yeah, I found you. Yeah, I remember seeing you in one of those guys' spaces. Those the like the
Yeah,
nuclear Pearl Davis and Luffy like that and Manko that like that corner of the internet, and I saw you and I was like, oh, based. You were a speaker in there, so you're like making it, bro. You're gonna get famous.
yeah. I normally joined X because I was it's mostly for political reasons because I really got into politics when Trump won and back in 2020. So it was mainly just following all the political stuff, and then I saw the spaces started coming out, and then I'll chime in every once in a while, but mainly on here for because I know a lot of this X has been turning into like a relationship problems, with men talking about marriage, relationships, and the
Yeah,
gender war that's going on. So it's nice to meet to talk to other people and all that.
yeah, for sure. Alrighty. Anybody else have any last thoughts?
Oh, thanks for hosting the space. I look forward to the next one.
Yeah, thanks for coming on, dude. You're like,
Sure.
dude, you're a fucking loyal ass mutual, bro. You fucking like my shit. You fight the people that I fight with. So W you, dude.
Thanks, buddy.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have a great rest of your weekend.
Alrighty, thank you. You too. Anybody else? War torn.
Nah, I'm good.
Alrighty. Alrighty. Well, take care. I'll see if hopefully this recording shows up in Twitter, and I'll keep it pinned to listen back on.
All right.
Alrighty, boys.